What's Working? I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. The focus of this show, as you likely already know, workplace and workforce trends. Our goal is to find the workplaces and the workforces that are doing something different that will help you and me get a little bit better at what it is that we do. And one of the more common challenges that I get as a consultant in my business is how do we recruit and retain good people? It's not a corner of this nation that I haven't traveled to where that question isn't on the forefront of everyone's tongue. What do we need to do to get and keep good people? I remember the first job I had. I was a teenager and I worked in the summers for Spring Hill College here in Mobile. I lived about a mile away, and every summer my father would drop me off at work. And at the end of the long, hot work day, some days I'd have to walk home, some days I would catch a ride with my parents. It was always a long, hot day in those summers, and I was given a lawnmower and a weed eater and a tank of gas, and was dropped off on a corner of that campus and told essentially, clean this part of the campus up, we'll come get you later around lunchtime, and then drop you back in another far corner of the campus later in that day. I learned that summer that I don't like working outside all that much. I learned that summer that I learned every faucet on the campus of Spring Hill College because I would find those faucets to get some water during those long, hot summers in order just to stay alive. And if nothing else, it motivated me to stay in school knowing that I didn't want a career working in the hot sun at Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama every summer. They had a hard time at that time finding people to come to work like me, a summer employee that was regular, that could show up reliably. I'll never forget essentially the satisfaction in my employers in knowing that they had found somebody that would show up to work on a regular basis and work those long, hot hours in the summer. And I'm no hero, but there were a lot of my peers at that time that would look at the work I was doing and say, not me, man, not me. I'm going to do something else. Today, I'm going to interview a guy, Sid Sexton. Sid owns Sexton Lawn and Landscape, and they do a remarkable job getting and keeping people, considering the working conditions that they go through on a regular basis. And as much as I'm interested in the trends that are shaping the lawn care and the landscape business, I'm interested in Sid's insight in how he gets and keeps people. There is nothing easy about this, particularly in today's economy, and for any one of you who has said kids these days don't want to work. I was in a conference call earlier this day with an AV crew in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the guy on the other end of the phone said the problem is kids these days just don't want to work. It is an element throughout our society. Yet somehow, Sid seems to find and keep and groom and train and develop leadership in the same generation that most every employer that I engage with is complaining about. He's growing his business through people, not through acquisition, but through people. And his footprint is gradually spreading. He works the Eastern Shore, he works over here on the Mobile side, and he's keeping up with the trends. And I said it again, and I'll say it over and over again. Finding and keeping good people, his recipe for success, is something that we need to know about in a labor-intensive business that, let's face it, is very hot and very sweaty. That is hard to get people to want to do. He's doing well. We'll meet Sid when we get back from break. I'm very interested in your thoughts on this topic. 251-260-8100. Again, 251-260-8100. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. And we'll be right back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner in Mobile at 666-1616.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm sitting here with Sid Sexton. Sid is the owner of Sexton Lawn and Landscape, a company based in Daphne. Sid, how long have you been in business? I know it's here in front of me right now.
I believe this is our 15th year we're going into. Maybe, yeah.
15th year, attended Missouri Valley College on a soccer scholarship, earned his bachelor's in business administration with a minor in horticulture. Background in the Coast Guard, stationed in Hawaii. It'd be interesting what you learned on horticulture in Hawaii. Met his wife there, and today is heavily involved in certainly his business, but as well as the community on the Daphne side on the Eastern Shore. Sid, welcome to the show. Thanks very much.
I really appreciate you having me on.
Let me begin with kind of a metaphor of something that I'm studying outside of these conversations with people like yourself, but I want to build the metaphor and have you react to it in regards to trends in your industry. And I've said this in the past, if you've listened to the show, and that is, you can take the toll booth. Hang in here with me. Let me tell you this thing. The toll booth. We go back 50 years in a toll booth. Every lane was manned by a human being who had people stop and pay the toll. And you and I would give them cash, and they would make change if we had to, and then they would roll on. Then the toll booth changed because people were able to throw change into a change basket. It took fewer people to get people through the toll booth. It changed yet again with the barcodes that we see on the doors or in the windows, as well as these devices that will be in the windshield that the toll booth scans, and people hardly have to tap their brakes. Each iteration of this technology, fewer people are needed, and the process is no longer slowed down, it's sped up. The most recent iteration that I'm aware of, I'm no means a toll booth expert, is they scan your license plate and invoice you. You don't even tap the brakes. They say you're just going to get billed, and that's what happens, and they'll even find a rental car. I've learned that the hard way. They'll track the rental car owner down. So these advances in technology, which are hitting every business out there, have to be hitting you too. Yet your business is outside, hands-on, lawns, landscapes, shrubbery. What is technology doing to you guys? What are the big advances that are changing lawn care today?
So, hey, I've had some interactions with those toll booths. We don't have many here, but I know what you're talking about, especially with rental cars. But as far as landscape, I know that there is a lot of talk, and I know that there's a lot of work going into like robotic mowers. I really see that more for the homeowner, and maybe that starts putting some pressure on the landscape contractor, the landscape professional. But I don't know about that yet. What I do know that technology is doing to our industry is elevating the level of service that our customer, that our client is really looking for. So when I think about technology, instead of it being an obstacle, I think of it as an opportunity for us to shine in customer service, to communicate in better ways, to send a photo that this is what we were doing at your home while you weren't here. This is what our plan is moving forward. This is a good way for our team to communicate back to the office or back to their leaders or amongst each other that, hey, I'm seeing this type of fungal activity. What should I be doing for that? And we don't always have the answer, but someone on our team will. And so we're just able to be a little more nimble with technology. And I don't know if that's answering exactly what you're looking for, but I don't see it as a negative or losing people. We are pretty labor intensive, and maybe that starts to reduce here or there, but I think that will just shift people to a different role, maybe manning a computer back at headquarters or whatever.
So the technology available to you is allowing you to communicate more clearly and quickly with your customers, update them as well as your team. But there's not, and you mentioned this to me when we first stepped in the studio together, battery-powered not appliances. What is the word I'm looking for?
Equipment. Handheld equipment and mowers too. I think those are the next sort of steps in technology, especially for us. And we're adopting a lot of that. Last year we had lots of handheld equipment. Now we've got a truck on order that's going to have solar panels. We'll have battery packs that recharge themselves throughout the day and overnight. And then the big push is for mowers, like zero-turn mowers, walk-behind mowers, push mowers, all battery-powered that we can use throughout the day.
I thought that was interesting throughout the day, is there seems to be a kind of a nobility about what time you crank up the blower.
Right, yeah. And lots of property owners associations have covenants against that. Like we can't get in there before 8 o'clock in the morning. And when it's July in South Alabama, I mean, it really helps to get started at 6 a.m. Also, we have we were talking about solopreneurs. I mean, there's lots of folks that work from home, and it's just inconvenient for us to walk by with a loud blower by their office window for 15 minutes every Tuesday. We can just provide a better service, I believe, and we're really experimenting with that.
So you think, and this is all hypothetical, but with an electric blower, an electric mower, an electric weed eater, all these tools that I'm familiar with in your trade, does that give you an additional 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day?
Yeah, that's really what we're banking on, is having an extra 2 hours and being a little bit more environmentally friendly and being a little bit more customer friendly.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad you mentioned the environmentally friendly, because there was a company that I was familiar with when I lived in Charlotte that may still exist here in Mobile. I don't know. It was called True Green Chem Lawn.
Yeah, it's a franchise out of Memphis, and there's franchises all around the U.S.
They dropped the chem. They dropped the chem in their name due to the pushback of the consumer of chemicals in their yard. Is my memory accurate?
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
How much questioning do you get as the head of your company, the one that's telling folks what chemicals to put down? How much feedback or pushback, rather, are you getting from homeowners today about what are you putting in or on my yard? Now, I'll tell you, me personally, if someone says to me, I'm not going to tell you what I'm putting on your yard, but it's going to make your yard green, I'm going to say, whatever, man. Please just don't let me know.
Yeah.
The more I know, the more responsibility I feel. Do what you think is the best. Do you get these questions from your consumers?
So we do. Probably about 10 to 15% will ask. And communication, sort of like technology, I think is a bit of a dichotomy too. You know, how much do you communicate and how much do you sort of just not bog them down with too much information? So what we really strive to do with like electric equipment and even chemicals is we try to find natural alternatives. There's lots of probiotics. There's lots of companies out there that are creating microorganism type of chemical applications that we utilize to put into the soil, and that's really what topsoil is one microorganism eating another microorganism, releasing a microorganism. So if we can kind of add to that, we start creating a good soil profile or biome, and that's kind of like your gut biome. And we use much less and less chemicals as we move forward. We still will have to apply like nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, because the plant is using those up. But if you get on a program, this is generally what we tell people. We'll have to use a little bit of herbicide, like a selective herbicide, which attacks one particular plant or maybe a handful of particular plants in your lawn, but it doesn't affect anything else. It's just chemistry. But every chemical we use has been on the market for about 10 plus years, so there's a good set of data to understand that it's safe. We don't want to apply anything that's unsafe to our customer or really our people. As we get through the conversation, I think you'll understand that we're really focused on our people as well. They're the ones handling it day in, day out. Yeah,
the correspondence we had in anticipation of this conversation highlights the relationship with your people. I definitely want to get into that, and I want to get into that after the break. What is a customer most looking for from you? Is it communication? Is it a pretty lawn? Is there one thing that let's take an extreme example. The lawn, the work you do can look horrible, but if you're communicating with them regularly, they're going to stick around. Or the lawn has to look great, and if they never hear from you, they're going to stick around. What is the balance in customer relationships with something like lawn care?
Yeah, so that's a That's an interesting question, and I really appreciate it. I think what we are always trying to do is solve the problem that the customer is coming to us with. And sometimes it's lawn care. Hey, I just want my lawn weed free and I want a place for my children to play soccer outside. Sometimes it's I want to enclose the backyard and not be able to see my neighbors and create this oasis. And sometimes it's just water is standing and we've got to do some drainage. Or sometimes I've got a decent lawn and I take care of my own place, but I can't keep it watered well enough. Or sometimes, lots of times, there's pests in the lawn, in the soil, like ground pearl. It's a pretty big issue around here, and people can't figure it out. And so that's what we come in, and we just solve the problem, and we communicate how we're solving the problem and how we're going to walk them through that problem.
Yeah. Ground pearls.
Ground pearls.
I was fairly confident when the guy that works with us on our lawn at my house came up with ground pearls. I'm like, yeah, you're making this up. There's no such thing as a ground pearl. You're improvising. And then it was about a week later that I saw my neighbor in his yard with some sort of blowtorch, torching the yard, burning it, saying this is going to kill the ground pearls. I said, I'm not so sure you're just out living a fantasy of playing with a torch in your front yard. It was something I'd never seen before, and he's kind of the guy that might like to torch his own yard.
Yeah, that would be a fantasy.
Yeah. Might be. And if you knew my neighbor, it might make sense. All right. Sid Sexton with Sexton Lawn and Landscape. We're going to be coming back after the break, and I'm going to foretell what's going to come. If you're one of the employers in our community that says kids these days don't want to work, or it's hard to find good talent, or if I could get somebody to show up at work 2 days in a row, or I can't find a resume that actually speaks to wanting to work, you're going to want to hear Sid's recipe for finding, keeping, developing talent. Sid, how many people do you have on your team right now?
We fluctuate between 40 and 45.
And a lot of these people are the very same generation that many of my clients complain about. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. I'm on with Sid Sexton, and we'll be back after this break.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com, or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm sitting with Sid Sexton. Sid is the owner of the Sexton Lawn and Landscape. I want to make sure I get that right every time. Certified landscape professional, and is also continues with online courses and events throughout the year. Something about, that works with the City of Daphne's Horticultural Department and completed the Faulkner State's Horticultural Program to expand knowledge in the local palate. I love the way you put that. Now, you heard before the break the concern that I get from so many employers locally as well as nationwide. Kids these days. In fact, I'll be going to New Orleans today to work with a group tomorrow about recruiting and retention issues. You've got 40 some odd people in your company. The information you sent to me in advance says we have low turnover. You have low turnover in a high demanding, outside, hot job. My first job one of my first jobs before college, let me say that, was working landscape or lawns at Spring Hill College. I pushed a lawnmower all over Spring Hill College for 2 or 3 summers, and it was hot, and I'd learned where every water fountain on campus was to stay alive. And I swore, this is the reason I'm going to go to school, so I don't have to do this anymore. It was killing me. It was hot and hard. You find them, you recruit them, and you keep them in a time where people think kids these days don't want to work. I'm going to give you a broad question. What's the secret?
So the secret to me, I think, is Simon Sinek's start with why. is I think my why is, and it started with me. I was a young kid, sort of like you. My first jobs were landscape jobs for a local landscape company, and then I worked for the golf course, and then I interned through school and really fell in love with the trade. And I just figured if I liked it, I can convince other people to like it too. And, I was graduating and were friends with lots of friends that had like humanities degrees and philosophy degrees and psychology degrees, but they couldn't find any jobs. And these were good folks that I worked out with, that I played soccer with or whatever, so they could meet the demands. And I just started trying to convince them that this is a good career path. And we started to show people that you can have a career in this type of work and get joy and satisfaction and impact lives and really have a good career in this field. I'm just a big green industry cheerleader, I think.
Tell me about joy. You can tell some guy who's 22 years old, 18 years old, part of the information you sent in advance says you work with those that have no career. Right. And you tell them there's joy in this work. Do you not just get extraordinary eye rolls? Tell me how that conversation goes down.
Yeah, so maybe that's how you package it, in my opinion, is I don't just come right up and say, hey, we're going to give you joy. But we do sort of put in our tier system, in our career path, there are little obstacles to get over. And I think that's where joy comes from, is progress, day in, day out, month in, month out, quarter, year, is just getting some guys and girls. We recruit a lot of females. They're awesome. I think they're underserved in the green industry too. But either way, just putting these little obstacles in their way. Here's this course. Here's a test. See, you passed it. Here's this science, subject that we need to get through. See, you went through that. And they start getting some self-confidence. I think they earn self-confidence. They earn the right to be called a foreman one or a project manager or an account manager. And they really get a lot of self-esteem. And these are folks that were floating around in the service industry, like restaurants and bars and just tending bar. And I think they were getting burned out from that because there's no real future and they're not working towards something. And that, I think, is our secret, is just serving them and giving them something to look forward to and something to work towards and something to strive towards. And they're working with teams, they're working with customers, they're working outside and with their hands and creating beauty, working with nature. And I'm just pouring into them all the time, any chance I get to, of how their work matters. When
they come to you, mm-hmm. first time, you've got an interview or they understand there's a job opening, how do you describe what you do to them? Versus to me, I may be a customer someday.
Sure.
How do you describe what you do to them? I think there's a message in what you're saying here that this audience needs to hear, and that is there is a target workforce out there that you guys are complaining about, my audience.
Yeah.
However, this guy, Sid, sitting in front of me, has a recipe that is undoubtedly working. I think one of the ingredients of your recipe is how you're describing the work they'll do. So imagine I'm 18 years old. I've been referred to you. You need somebody, so you're eagerly recruiting. How do you introduce the work to this 18-year-old?
One, these folks that are coming to us, for the most part, unless we seek them out and recruit them directly, well, even if we recruit them directly, the message is still the same, is that here's how we're different. Here's how we lay out. We do the work. We've done a lot of work on the back end to serve you, to show you how you become successful. And here is where you start at the bottom, but here's how you get to the top.
Let me interrupt you. Is this printed? Here's where you start on the bottom. So tell me what you're showing them now.
Okay, it's just a career ladder or a tier system. The first 30 days, we expect you to know this, this, and this. And then you get to the 60 to 90-day period, and you should know this, this, and this. Identify these pieces of equipment and these basic plants. And here's how you go from this pay level to this pay level. Then you move to the next section, and there's another pay level. And then you move to the next section, and so on and so forth. And it's printed. And once you come on board, it's your responsibility. That may be one thing I learned in the Coast Guard is we had qual packages where, your first 30 days you're on a boat, you've got to know this, this, and this. And if you don't have that, you're in trouble. But once you get past over that hump, it's your responsibility and your free will to advance yourself, essentially. And you get your supervisors to sign off on it and then sit for a test to show that you know that information. And that's really what we do.
So you've given them a printed path. Mm-hmm. This is what you can expect to learn on these days. Who's teaching this stuff? Who is responsible for delivering this content?
So complicated answer to that, and I'll try to make it simple, but the first small bits are their supervisor or the mentor that's assigned to them.
Stop with mentor. My goodness, man, I don't know that you know the gold mine you're giving me here. Mentor. Who is the mentor? How are they assigned? What is that job?
So we've identified we've got three, we essentially have 4 departments. Lawn maintenance, that's the folks that come out weekly, monthly, whatever, mow, weed eat, edge, and blow. We've got the chemical department, the plant health, and then we've got the landscape construction department. And each one of those, there's someone that's been there for a while that is on board, fully bought into the system. And so as a new hire comes on, it's their job to help make them successful. And so the mentor probably gets more out of it than the mentoree or whatever, however you say that.
Mentee.
Mentee.
Yeah.
You know, and you start building some relationships there. And the mentor really starts to get some joy, you know, of bringing someone along. And I really learned that because I travel all over and I try to teach other landscape companies and I try to be helpful as possible. And when you teach, you learn, right? So so there's that. So each department has someone that is a veteran, that is a mentor, and has earned that position.
Yeah, and that is that veteran mentor that has earned the position. Is it another pay level? Now that you're at the top, you're a mentor, and there's a recognition for this as well.
Yeah, it's part of their tier system.
Their own tier system.
Now you're a project manager number 2. This is what we expect from you. Create another project manager.
So what you're describing to me is exactly what one of my former clients did, and I would suppose they're still doing it today, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. The number of people they have to hire, and they show the plan, the printed plan. Here's what you can expect if you come to work here. But my employers that I'll talk to tomorrow morning over in New Orleans, Cam, that sounds like work.
It is.
I don't know that I want to create that. I don't know if I want to have to commit to this process because things could change. I don't know that I have the time to be the mentor or any one of my people want. The objections are so many objections to the reason they don't want to do it. But here I'm sitting in front of a guy who's done it, has 40 some odd plus people doing hard work and says this myth that kids these days don't want to work is exactly that. It's a myth.
Yeah, that has not been my experience. Yeah, I mean, it's been a labor of love. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I love this industry, and I love the people that come on board in our team, and I think that may be the big difference. That I see that as my purpose in life is to give these people opportunity. And our company continues to grow, not because I need to make more money or because I've got some fantasy of world domination or anything, but growth creates opportunity. And I just want some place for these people to continue to move up and on and build their lives.
So here again, we got somebody who has a very successful business, but perhaps, I'm going to put words in your mouth, doesn't view it as a landscape business.
No. It's social experiment, maybe. I don't know. So really my personal why is changing lives through business.
Changing lives through business. And does that apply to customers as well?
Yeah, probably. You know, in our minds, we're giving customers time back. You know, if we can give you 2 hours every week back that you can spend with your family, if we can create an environment that in your backyard or your front yard or an entrance that gives you peace and joy, you know, we're changing lives through there.
Yeah. Now, imagine that in this empty chair next to us, I had a typical employee of yours. Mm-hmm. Picture him or her in your head, and I were to ask them what their job is. What would they say?
They would probably talk about our brand promise, just serving our brand promise, which is to provide a worry-free customer experience with easily accessible landscape services. It gets a little bit wordy, but it really is a customer experience, worry-free and easily accessible. Those things, we just make it easy for the customer and serve them and solve their problems.
And do they wear your logo proudly? Do they wear all the materials that you give them? The sense that I get is that you do they recognize they're in more than the lawn care business. They're doing something different. Is that the case?
That's the case. So you asked me a question actually, and yesterday, and I asked our team through our little app that we have, what's the number one benefit that we provide? And it wasn't the simple IRA or the vacation or the health insurance or the work events that we do, like the fun events we call them. It was the opportunities. If I'm trying to pull them all together, it was that we see them as people and we invest in their future, and they feel like they are actually part of a team.
Yeah.
I think that's what everyone wants, right? That's what everyone wants, to be a part of a team. Everyone wants significance. And that's what I'm trying to give them. Significance, meaning.
I'm reading some stuff right now. It's called Sapien. And it's about how we, as a society today, live more alone than we've ever lived before. Yeah. Throughout the vast majority of human history, we've been in tribes, we've been in groups, and this tribe and this group has largely been very intimate to us. In other words, we live around 30 people, and we were around those 30 people the vast majority of our lives. And this is back prior to recorded history. This is back when we were, hunter-gatherer types. And as society continues to develop, we separate. This technology, which is undoubtedly surrounding you and me right now, which is fantastic stuff, has in fact separated us, and our need to be a part of a tribe, to feel recognized and valued by the group around us is not getting quenched. That thirst is not getting quenched. And when we find the environments, much like what you've told me you've created, they stick. They absolutely stick because they found something elemental that we have a hard time articulating, but we know it's good when we found it.
Yeah, and your last episode with Dr. Caldwell, was that her?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys touched on that. I really kind of connected to that. But I do think what I'm doing is essentially what I was telling you, that is an obstacle, that technology and society moving in that direction, but that's also an opportunity. If I can find a way to get people to come together and give them meaning and give them significance, and especially these people that are floating around with no real clear direction. If I can bring them on board and give them a direction and bring them part of the team, I'm winning.
You would know this, folks, but we're talking about landscaping right now.
Yeah, we are.
I'm with Sid Sexton, the president of Sexton Lawn and Landscape. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back with more remarkable insights. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His No Mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook. Call 634-0100 or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard. We're back. I'm Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. I have with me Sid Sexton, the president of Sexton Lawn and Landscape. Sid, your background, Coast Guard, time in Hawaii. You've done many different things. I'm assuming you landed in Mobile due to your Coast Guard training. Were you here at one point?
No, my wife is from here, so
Yeah.
happy wife, happy life.
Well,
And it's way better than Muskogee, Oklahoma, where I grew up. Maybe not as nice as Honolulu, but it'd be tough to raise a family there.
Did you take an interest in horticulture in Honolulu? I've been there a number of times. It's remarkable.
Yeah. So once I got out, I got a job with a local sort of property management company, and we had a landscape arm, and I managed a shopping center, kind of like the Eastern Shore Center, and did some stuff here and there until it was time to move here. And start building a family and building a life, setting down roots, if you will.
Island fever. Are you familiar with this? People?
Yeah, I did not have that. My best friend and roommate from college was from there, and so that's kind of how I got in the Coast Guard and worked a deal to get out there and stayed out there my entire time.
Yeah. So you came back to Mobile, or you came to Mobile with your wife.
Yeah.
And you started this business, and it from the outside looking in, it looks like you're, King Midas. Everything's worked. Everything's been easy. You went from, I imagine a small crew to now 40 people. Tell me about the process of trying stuff and maybe having it not work, I'm guessing, and then trying again.
Yeah. So I tell people I'm a 15-year overnight success.
Yes, I love that expression.
Yeah, because sort of like you mentioned on your last episode that I try lots of things. I came at a really good time, right? 2004, everything was booming here. I worked for the city of Daphne for a while, so I had a part-time job. My wife was in the Coast Guard. That's how I met her, and she worked out in Mobile, ATC Mobile. And so I was fortunate enough to not have children and be stable, but it was just me. And so it, one client after another, and then one contract after another, and then eventually it built from there. And then 2008, 2009 happened, and I think that's really where, you hear people talk about grit. I think that's really where it turned for me. That I was like, oh, okay, we're running this thing like a real business, and now there's, now we've really got to watch our finances and watch our systems. And I think that's really where I turned up the notch of reading. We were talking leaders or readers. I learned that even though I had spent time in school studying horticulture and business, that it didn't teach me what I really needed to know, which was, how do you make crews productive? How do you track hours and estimate correctly? How do you take that information and just, you ever heard of an OODA loop? Like, you take the information in and you refine it and you try it again, you take that information and, so you're just looping that information all the time and just constantly refining it. So, about 1,000 books later and 10 years later, we've slowly built into a very nice, very stable company that's poised for growth.
Do you ask your team to read?
We do. It's part of their tier system. So we were talking about the tier system before. The first half is about 90% hard skills and about 10% soft skills. That's my term maybe. I don't know. I'm sure I heard it somewhere. I don't have anything original. But soft skills, I just sort of identify those as leadership and management, things like that. Once you start making the turn towards being a project manager or a foreman or some sort of supervisor, it starts shifting to about 50% soft skills, 50% hard skills. And then really once you make the step up to account manager or manager in general, it really goes back up to 80% soft skills, 20% hard skills. And what I really am trying to do there is that we're building leaders. And you and I were talking about that. Actually, I think what we're talking about in business and with people is leadership. And that's where the big obstacle is, because it's tough and it's fuzzy and it's really hard to sort of measure. And so if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But I think you can. It's tough because of the fuzzy nature of it. But it's really the secret to success is building leaders, and maybe that's where the joy comes from, is when they start seeing themselves leading well.
So the books that you ask them to read, as they're getting more and more into the soft skills, is it a book club? Is it a discussion held in the workplace upon completion of the book? How do you hold them accountable to developing these soft skills? And it sounds like a good bit of it includes reading.
Yeah, so we'll start with small books. There's one called Winning with Accountability. It's about 90 pages. It's part of their tier system to become a supervisor. They read that, and then there's a test. Then once you start making your way through, there's another book called Making Yourself Indispensable. Read it. take a test. There's another one called Extreme Ownership, which I think is hands down, it's written by Jocko Willink, hands down the greatest leadership book I've ever read. Sorry. He's got another follow-up book called The Dichotomy of Leadership, so we'll read those. And then, so those are tests with questions. And then we generally read with our leadership team about 1, possibly 2 books a year. I try not to throw too many ideas at these ladies and gentlemen throughout the year. I don't want to, get them too distracted. But like the 4 Disciplines of Execution has really impacted us. I can't remember who wrote that. There is also another book called The Advantage, written by Pat Lancioni. That's really what got us to align and what our core values are and how we're building towards success and how do we build a team, those kind of things. And so this year we'll probably read The Dichotomy of Leadership together and Traction.
Traction is another one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm impressed by this reading list. I'm not familiar with many workplaces, and I've stuck my toe in a lot of them that have a reading list like this. That there are often ones, particularly larger companies, that have book clubs, but they choose fiction books generally, and it develops collegiality around the book that they've just read. I assume when your people come on board and they see this outline for their future, they realize homework, reading, not just work day 9 to 5 stuff, is going to be a part of their commitment. Yes?
Yes, they do. And I don't know that it hits home to them at first. At first, they're just kind of knocking out regular skills, safety and plant ID and things like that. And then once they're on board and they're sort of fully vested, they start seeing that this is the next step. And I really think maybe that's the secret, now that we're talking about it, is that there are lots of guys and girls that get to that book and they talk to me or they talk to their supervisor. Oh, I know this stuff. Can I just take the test? No, man. And these are folks that didn't probably do very well at school. Maybe someone told them that they're dumb, or maybe they just acted out in school, and so they worked it in their head that they're not smart. And these are smart folks, man. They're figuring out things all the time, coming up with their own ideas. And so I just sort of gently push them to go ahead and do that because, well, 1, this is how you advance, and we're not changing the rules for you. But 2, you see the lights come on whenever they get over that obstacle. And we were talking about obstacles, getting over obstacles. That's how you find joy in life, and that's how you earn self-esteem.
One of the predictions that I'm making when I go into my clients and talk about the future of the workplace is that the skills of the manager in 5 to 10 years are going to have to be motivating.
Yeah.
How to motivate people, because the demands of the job and technology and all these things that we've been talking about are only going to increase, and it's going to be the manager's job to learn how to motivate and inspire their workforce. Not as much do the job, but inspire the people around them to do the job. A whole new level of motivation for the management and leadership is now motivating their teams to do that. And it sounds like this is something that you're doing right now.
Yeah. And as we're talking, I'm starting to think through that I really see myself as a coach, and that's really what we talk to our leadership team as, is being coaches, and then that's how we are successful. That's how we get ahead, because most of our leadership team isn't out at your lawn serving you. These people are. So if we can coach them and help them to become successful, they will ultimately serve the customer well. And I'm also thinking that everything I learned pretty much, especially early in life, I played soccer my entire life. And that team sport in particular, there's lots of skill involved, but there's lots of interaction. Everyone's got to have their role and do their role well. And you got to know where the next person is, sort of like football, too. I played football, but I was much better at soccer. And I intuitively, I think I take those cues from that experience and try to build our team that way.
Yeah. So you work on your business, not in your business.
Pretty much, that's my sole role now.
Yeah.
And early on, that was the struggle, is finding the time to work on the business, not in the business. And I found ways to do that by signing up for this workshop or that workshop, or this peer group or that consulting group, or having this consultant come in and taking that information. So, it's been an evolution, just trying tons of things and seeing what fits for me, taking what I want and leaving the rest.
I think based on what you've built, you can look back behind you and say, I've done a pretty doggone good job. I'm going to sit back and continue this, but my suspicion in talking to you is you're not done. The work creates opportunity. Yeah. When you look out 10 years, let's not do 5 years. That's common. Yeah. Let's look out 10 years. What's your world look like?
Yeah. So, well, one, I struggle with that just because I see, growth creates opportunities, and we will grow as our team grows, not how Sid grows. I'm no longer the bottleneck. But that makes it pretty cool. We're building a new location in Daphne. I see at least in 5 or 10 years, we'll have a location in Mobile. We should have a location down at the beach. And then where we go from there, I'm not sure. But we should go from about $4.5 million to $10 million. And
wow.
And that's kind of the 5-year goal.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's not based on Sid's ego. I think that's one of the key things that you and I were talking about, is that it's not my ego. It's me serving those people and making sure that I'm doing my job well, which is vision casting and identifying what the obstacles are that are out in front of us, so these people have good opportunities in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with other landscape companies that have perhaps been down this path before you, and how they've ended up, or ancillary investments they've made to grow their business in non-traditional ways? Are there companies out there that are, doing something remarkable, and they started on a path that was similar to yours? Other than just continuing to grow the scale of their business, they've gotten into something ancillary that has created a new opportunity for them.
So in that peer group that I keep mentioning, that proof management, there's 100 other landscape contractors in non-competing markets, and I think I'm the guy that's people-driven the most, but I do have mentors, guys that have been around for 40 years that are now growing their business and serving their people and taking up, new locations and taking risks. So I don't know of anyone kind of doing it the way we do. I usually get the weird looks. But I'm okay with that, I think.
Yeah, okay with that. So the growth could be anywhere from just if I understood you correctly, it's going to more than double in the next 5 years at the trajectory that you're growing.
Yes,
there are employers that complain about not being able to find people. There are manufacturers in town that said we could scale up if we could find people. Doesn't sound like that's a challenge you're anticipating.
It's certainly a challenge, but I think we have the right attitude towards addressing it, and I feel like we become the employer of choice in our field, and most of the people that come to us are people that are friends with the people that work with us.
Last question, 46 seconds. Someone drives down the street, they see your truck in front of a home, in front of a business. What do you want them to think about who you guys are?
Wow, that's tough. I think hopefully that you think of us as a company, an organization that respects its people, that respects its clients, and really works really hard to provide value. Whatever that is that you find valuable, we're trying to solve that problem and give you that value.
Sid Sexton, folks, president of Sexton Lawn and Landscape. Very insightful. Thanks, Sid, for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Folks, we'll be back with final comments after this break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts. Do you have a plan to protect your income if you can't work? We'd all like to believe that we'll never be disabled, but the reality is it could happen to you. And if it does, will your income be protected, your family be cared for? Richard Otts has served the Gulf Coast since 1997. If you'd like more information about disability insurance, contact Richard 251-342-8917. That's 251-342-8917.
I'm beginning to sound like a broken record in what I'm about to say. Once again, we found somebody whose business, and I don't mean this in a detrimental way or a derogatory way, we found somebody whose business is a shell for something greater. We hear it over and over in the businesses that we interview, that I interview on this show, whose businesses are growing, who have extraordinary energy, who are attracting people from the outside to be a part of it. People like me who simply want to interview these people and get to know them. What do they all have in common? The business is a shell for something greater. Sid describes himself as a leadership development guy, yet his trucks say lawn care, landscape and lawn care. His motive is greater than the product that the customer receives. The product that the customer receives is the very tip of the iceberg. It's solving problems, it's growing people, it's seeking a greater purpose in his business community, both for his people as well as for his customers. And I am once again stirred by somebody who has this compelling desire. It has become clear in the 52 or 53 shows that we've done that the people with this stirring are creating remarkable businesses that are attracting people to them, both employees as well as customers. There's a lesson in there. I want to leave you information on how to get in touch with us. We'd love your show ideas. If there's somebody you think I need to meet and interview, send them along, send their name, make an introduction for me. The phone is 251-260-8100. That's also the text line, phone/text, 251-260-8100. Email me directly. That email address is cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'll say it again, cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. If you like the show, you can find it as a podcast. Go to my webpage, cammarston.com. Across the top of the page, you will find the podcast link. Click on it. You can listen to it off of my website or click any one of those links to listen to it on any of the downloadable sites where you can also subscribe to it, by the way. If you do listen to it on iTunes, we'd appreciate a review. Those reviews, as I continuously learn, are more and more important, and they matter. Keep up with us on Facebook. What's Working with Cam Marston? You can find that in a Facebook search bar. Enter it in that bar. Hit enter. You'll find our webpage. We're looking for ideas. We're giving you updates on shows. We're giving you pictures of what we're up to. It's the place we keep things most up to date. So again, the quickest and easiest way, 251-260-8100. There are a couple people that are critical to the success of this show, and it's important that I call them out. The first one is Kristen Ogden. Kristen has been a great help in organizing and finding the guests, lining them up, getting the bios, getting some information on their businesses and presenting it to me. She's worth her weight in gold in the work she does on the show. Secondly is John Thompson. John takes all my ands and my ums and my you-knows and everything else that I do that's wrong on the show and does his best to edit them out and make me sound, I would guess, at least 10 to 15 IQ points smarter than I really am. John is critical to my success. And I would be remiss without thanking the crew at 106.5 and Sean Sullivan and his team, Bill Roth. They've been very, very helpful to me as we begin our second year of What's Working with Cam Marston, thanks to the 106.5 crew. This is Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. Have a good week, everybody. We'll be back next week.